Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And I've been trying to wrap my mind around this trade for the last few days. It just feels very weird, not just as a broad NBA fan or just a basketball fan in general. I'm a New York Knicks fan, so when I'm thinking back to Porzingis' third season in a New York Knicks uniform, when he was breaking Ewing's records when it came to like a certain amount of points through the first 4 games of a season, block shots, rebounds, and even more, or not even just Ewing, just amount of 3-pointers made. Porzingis, when Carmelo Anthony went on to be dealt for like Doug McDermott, Enes Kanter, a draft pick, when it was Porzingis' team, we felt like we had a lot of hope. We have a savior here. And there was kind of still a scare though. Porzingis, obviously, with what's his long-term longevity? Like, what's his longevity in this league? He's 7'3", shouldn't be moving that well. How many good years will you get of Porzingis? Obviously, Phil Jackson wasn't there when it came to his third season. Kristaps, Porzingis, Scott Perry's there at that point, but there was kind of the scare of the 2017 draft. Will Porzingis be dealt? Because there wasn't a good relationship. The whole Phil Jackson thing was toxic, but Porzingis gets hurt, doesn't like the direction of the team, requests a trade, and I just remember being so sad. I thought Porzingis was going to be a Knick for life. That dude is playing like an MVP candidate before he tore his ACL. I thought this dude is the next Dirk. I thought he was the next big thing. Porzingis is just absolutely unbelievable. I don't think fans really appreciate how good Porzingis was, or they're just not really. Just go back, watch the Porzingis versus Lakers game when it was Lonzo's rookie year. Porzingis had 37 points at the Garden. He had one move. He just took someone off the dribble, and it was just so crazy to watch. And I'm starting to get a little emotional. I'm not going to lie. I thought he was unprofessional posting some stuff when he left. But the thing I'm getting out of this is I did not expect when we drafted this dude in 2015. I didn't know what he was going to be. I knew he had some upside. I knew he was raw. He was better than people thought right away. We're going to be getting into the trade. But I didn't think he'd be on his fourth team in the league already. The New York Knicks for a few seasons. The Dallas Mavericks. People thought Luka and Porzingis were going to be the next Jason Kidd, Dirk Nowitzki. That doesn't work out. Ends up being dealt to the Washington Wizards. And this past season, he actually had his best season in a Washington Wizards uniform. And obviously, before that, he wasn't there the whole season. He was there for like a half a season, but he looked pretty good in Washington. But then you never knew with how many games Beal's gonna play with his health. And then there's times I'm like, this might be Porzingis' team. And then a deal this happens this offseason because the Wizards, I thought they made the right decision. I've always been critical of the Wizards. They don't have a very successful, Knicks fan, critical of the Wizards / Bullets. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've always been critical of their future as a franchise. They've never, like, obviously they've had years they've been bad, but a lot of times since I was born in 2004, they've been middle of the pack. They've been mediocre, not good enough to compete, but not bad enough to get a top draft pick. Lately they've been in this direction of 8th, ninth pick. We're trying to compete, but we're also trying to like rebuild at the same time, retool around a Bradley Beal. And the Wizards' mindset is, no, let's draft, let's try to develop. We're going to try to take a different direction that this franchise has never consistently done. And we're tired of just being somewhat relevant because of a player, no disrespect to Beal, that may drop 28 every night when he's out there on the floor 30 every night. But it's like, we're not winning. There's no good supporting cast. We have a super max invested in this player that's probably a really good 2 option or a really good 3 option. We need more. We need to move on from these salaries. We don't really care what we get. We know there's not going to be a lot of value with these guys, but we're trying to get these contracts off the books. And obviously they selected a Bilal Koulibaly from France, Victor Wembanyama's teammate, and I like getting Tyus Jones in that deal because he's a steady point guard. But yeah, now he's with the Celtics, and at first I was like, okay, Malcolm Brogdon being dealt in that deal. I kind of get it. He won 6th Man of the Year, but he wasn't healthy in the playoffs, and despite him being a good offensive player, when healthy, and he's not a strict point guard, but he's turnstile defensively, like sometimes. And there was times he got abused in the playoffs by Philadelphia 76ers, a switch of Brogdon defending a James Harden, or just like the Miami Heat, to certain matchups that would just be more physical than a Brogdon and be able to work downhill on him, create space and pull up from that mid-range or from the outside and be able to shoot over him. So I'm like, all right, kind of understand it, but it just still felt so weird Porzingis going to the Celtics. But this is before it was like no Marcus Smart was in the deal. Obviously, things fell through. Things changed. But I'm like, Porzingis is going to have to be dealt anyway because there would be just a weird feeling between Porzingis and the Wizards organization if he stays there, because he's like, all right, you guys tried to trade me. I think back when he was at the Knicks, the 2017 draft, Phil Jackson's mindset was like, yeah, we might be trying to trade this guy potentially for Lauri Markkanen, who's a stretch big as well. It obviously he's had a successful career so far with the Utah Jazz. He's over there in the military right now with Finland, his country. But when I take a look at him, I'm like, all right, he's going to have to be dealt. And then a report comes out not too long after that it's a 3-team trade. The Wizards are in it. The Grizzlies are in it. Obviously the Boston Celtics. And I really wonder what the Celtics mindset is when they went and made this trade. Where they like, Marcus Smart is our most mentally tough player. And this dude's not afraid of anything. He's not Kobe, but he acts like he's Kobe. He checks himself into the games. Like, we love that mental approach that he is mentally tough as shit. He shot 36% from 3 in the playoffs. Last season was probably one of his most down years defensively. He wasn't horrible, but compared to past seasons, he wasn't fantastic. He was better in the playoffs compared to the regular season. But, yeah, he was averaging 14 to 15 points per game. I actually thought he was pretty solid in the playoffs for the Boston Celtics. Again, he's their most mentally tough player, in my opinion, that he's absolutely fearless. And I feel things would be different if I feel Tatum does have this killer mentality, but there's sometimes that I just think he's down on himself throughout games compared to a Smart that I feel like he's always constantly locked in, not afraid at all times. So I think if you change Smart's demeanor with Tatum's demeanor, things could be different for that Celtics team. But the Celtics organization, Danny Ainge, the ownership was probably like, we have to choose between Joe Mazzulla and Marcus Smart. Let's see Joe Mazzulla have him be vocal in that locker room, because maybe they thought Smart had too much of a say, Danny Ainge, like at top in the Celtics organization. So they're like, let's try to trade Marcus Smart. And good thing for them, they trade him to the West, so they don't have to see him a lot. And Grit and Grind Grizzlies maybe back. You had like Jaren Jackson Jr. I'm not saying he's as good as Marcus Gasol, but you have that defensive anchor. Obviously, you have John Morant, but Marcus Smart, kind of like your Tony Allen, maybe. And the funny thing is, Tony Allen was a Celtic, and then to the Grizzlies. Marcus Smart was a Celtic to the Grizzlies. So I find that very fascinating. But the Celtics should also look at it. Horford's getting old. He's getting up there in age. We know Porzingis isn't crazy young, but he has a good amount of years, like younger than an Al Horford. He does have some injury history, especially with that ACL injury back with the Knicks, and he's just had his injuries throughout his career, like with Dallas and with Washington sometimes. But last season was his most healthy year as a pro. He averaged the most points as a pro, 23 points. He shot exceptionally well from downtown. It's like, let's get that stretch big that may have more upside than Horford at this point. And when I'm looking at it, Horford potentially comes off the bench, because I'm not a big fan of the mobility. Yeah, Porzingis has good mobility, not the same as he had before the ACL injury. And he's a good rim protector, but he's not someone that you could just trust, put him on an island outside on the perimeter. You need Robert Williams at the center position with Porzingis at that 4, in my opinion, for those physical matchups. For someone that's more mobile as a Robert Williams and you can't have Horford that's older than Porzingis that's had these injuries and expect them to really just hold it down even in the mid-range area when these guys are probing around and in the interior, because there's times Porzingis can get blown by, but obviously it's this ridiculously long wingspan. But the full trade, Celtics received Kristaps Porzingis, the number 25 pick in the 2023 draft via Grizzlies. There ended up being some maneuvering with that, and the Pistons actually ended up with that pick. They selected Marcus Sasser, one of my favorite players out of the draft, sniper from Houston. 2024 first-round pick, top 4 protected via Warriors. I don't really expect that being much. The Grizzlies received Marcus Smart, just a mentally tough player. That's like the perfect situation for him, which I love. Just tough, grinded out defensive player, fearless, and I'm really interested to see how Taylor Jenkins is going to coach him up, or what his role is going to be. Is he going to come off the bench? Is he going to start? You have John Morant over there. You have Desmond Bane. Is Desmond Bane going to come off the bench? That should be very fascinating. Wizards received Tyus Jones, Danilo Gallinari, which is crazy because I think he was just excited to come back from that injury and play for the Celtics, Mike Muscala, and the number 35 draft pick. And then if you take a look at that 35 draft pick, Celtics ended up drafting Julian Phillips, and there was some maneuvering with that. Celtics drafted Julian Phillips, and then it was traded to the Bulls. But I like it for the Wizards because I think they're gonna try to give Bilal Coulibaly, who's a project, as much touches. They don't want to kill his confidence, and it depends if Kuzma comes back as well. Whoa, I can't even say that. They got Coulibaly, but they got Jordan Poole jacking up 30 shots a game. So that could be totally different. Never mind. But Tyus Jones is a steady point guard. I like what he brings to the table. Gallinari. I feel like they're going to try to move on from him because he doesn't fit their timeline. Mike Muscala, stretch big, number 35 pick in the 2023 draft as well. But when I look at the Celtics, do I think they're going to win the finals with this lineup? It's a good-looking lineup on paper. We'll see if Porzingis stays healthy. Career high, 65 games he played last season. The starting lineup looks terrific, but I'm not sure of their bench. I feel they lack some speed, and I'm not going to say mobility, but just overall just fluidity on defense. I'm not a big fan of their athleticism coming off the bench, to be completely honest. There has to be another move. There was always these talks. Marcus Smart's not a true point guard. They'll finally be good when they get this true point guard, even though there's a rare amount of just true point guards in today's NBA. But like talking about stability, when I see Tyus Jones, I'm like, that's the perfect point guard for the Celtics. He knows what to do with the basketball. He's not going to try to do too much. And that's a guy that would actually be perfect for the Celtics. Derek White, not trying to take anything away from him, but they're probably going to try to make him the point, because I don't look at Brogdon as a true one or true two. Again, there's not many like true one, true twos in the league. Guys play off the ball. But Derek White would probably be their closest thing to their point guard. 3 assists per game. He's pretty steady. Can shoot off the ball. Doesn't need the ball in his hands to be successful. But if you're Joe Mazzulla, are you just trying to give as many ball handling duties as possible to Derek White? Because there's so many times I don't have a problem with Tatum bringing up the ball, but I do have a problem with it when he brings up the ball, tries to do too much, goes right to his isolation set, and there's a lack of ball movement and a possession. I feel they should just try to add more structure with Derek White should bring the ball like 70-80% of the time. I know Tatum has improved as a playmaker, but still, is there enough playmaking in this lineup of a Derek White, potentially Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Porzingis, and a Robert Williams? Is there enough playmaking? And how much are they going to live and die by that 3 ball again and for the Celtics? But I do like that they did add someone to Porzingis that he shoots a good amount of threes. He's gotten stronger throughout his career. Of course, he's not a crazy back down, gonna murder you like a Jokic, go right at you. Obviously, he's the fluidity, he has the long wingspan. But when the offense gets stagnant, he can help out. That he calls for the ball in the post, he can shoot over anyone, and he's gotten better with those going against those shorter guys. Because I remember early on, he would struggle against like a Marcus Smart, built like a safety type down low, try to cut him off, tap on that elbow, because it's tough for the refs to notice sometimes because he's 7'3", and then you have this little guy fouling him. It's hard to notice. So when the offense gets stagnant, that shot will be there to feed Porzingis and shoot that fall away, because you have Jaylen Brown that can score Tatum. By the way, Jaylen Brown is going to be brought back. He's going to get that crazy, crazy deal. And I don't like judging players off of just one playoff performance, because I thought he did an exceptional job. He had some turnovers in that Warriors series when they went to the finals. But I feel like people forget how good he was or how solid he was helping them get to the finals. Obviously, there's other contributing factors, but I don't like just judging one player off of like their most recent blunder. I think he has the opportunity to bounce back. I think he can bounce back, but I completely understand it. 8 turnovers in biggest game for the Celtics this past season in the postseason. Yeah, it's unacceptable versus the Miami Heat. His handle is not consistent, but I do think Porzingis brings them easier offense due to his height. The shots are going to be available for him for sure. But it's just really tough. I'm like, is there a consistently mentally tough player on this team, though? I just don't get that from the Celtics. But if you take a look at their bench, Payne Pritchard, does he go on to play? Obviously, they still have Brogdon, but are they going to run lineups of Pritchard and Brogdon? No way they do that, though, because Brogdon could be a turnstile on defense. Payne Pritchard could be a turnstile on defense, even though he's shown some signs of tough shot making, good handle. He has made it through college, made it to the NBA with his handle. Lack of size, but he could shoot that thing when he is open. But Horford coming off the bench. You have Grant Williams, Sam Hauser. Do they go on to play him more? I remember they would play him like the first half of the season, Celtics, and then they stopped playing. What I'm noticing with this theme of the Celtics team is where's the athleticism? So maybe they do need Robert Williams off the bench. It's just they lack that athleticism. Like, I like Brogdon. Hopefully he can stay healthy this time. But if they play Pritchard, he's not crazy athletic. Sam Hauser, Grant Williams, decent athlete, not fantastic when he came out of Tennessee. Still not great, he's average. So will they need a Robert Williams? They're not playing Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin's older at this point. Jordan Walsh is someone they went on to acquire on draft night through a trade. And I actually liked him coming out of Arkansas, but they have that confidence in a rookie. He can't shoot the three ball. So he's kind of like a Grant Williams right now. He's good at cutting. He's more athletic, though, than a Grant Williams. And brings more, I think he's going to bring more defensive versatility. But that mental toughness, is that going to be there? You know, the Grizzlies just acquired some big-time a very mentally tough player now, Marcus Smart. Good-looking starting five. But where's the playmaking coming from? Where's the toughness off that bench? Where's the athleticism? There has to be another move being made. Are they gonna like just rely on JD Davison out of nowhere? But this was a very interesting trade that went down. Just looking at the details again, I like for the Wizards. I actually really like Tyus Jones, but offensively, I think they're gonna be awesome. There's gonna be highs and lows when it comes to chemistry, but it comes down to Joe Mazzulla. How is he gonna structure this offense? And is he going to change up their philosophy on offense? And this is Joe Mazzulla's shot. I think this is their year, or this is his year to really prove it. Like, I could be a leadership. You know, Marcus Smart's gone. He was the very vocal guy. I'm not saying Marcus Smart was a problem or anything like that. But they brought in Sam Cassell as an assistant coach, and he was getting some interviews, or some other organizations were kind of interested. Should we interview Sam Cassell? Should we potentially hire him? I know some Sixers fans. I have some Sixers friends that were like, ooh, maybe we should hire Sam Cassell. Think outside of the box. Tired of rehiring these guys over and over again that have like been throughout the league, constant cycle. And if things don't work out with him, I think Sam Cassell could be the Celtics' next head coach. Let me know down below your thoughts on this trade. I don't think they're going to the finals unless they make another deal. And I'm not even saying another deal is going to help them make it to the finals. But what do you think that next move needs to be for the Celtics? And peace out, y'all.